Are you working through our daily discussions? Because if you're inside of a jail or a prison, you have to invest in yourself. At least that's my vision. My name is Michael Santos, and I went into prison in August of 1987. I was locked in that environment until August of 2013. That's 9,500 days in prison, and I learned a lot of lessons that empowered me through that journey. And I have a duty and a responsibility to pass those messages along to as many people as possible. That's why I'm so grateful to the digital providers that allow us to get into institutions across America. And I am so grateful to the state and federal prison systems that allow us to pipe these videos inside of jails and prisons, because we are absolutely 100% committed to making an impact on improvements for all justice impacted people. That's the way that we can be the change that we want to see in the world. We definitely want to see more people emerging from the criminal justice system, regardless of what stage they're in. We want them coming out with their dignity intact, with confidence, with opportunities to thrive and prosper and build a life of meaning and relevance and significance as a fully functioning person in America. That's what Second Chances is all about. And as somebody who went through that journey, I've got to show, how did I create a pathway or a body of work that allowed me to build a better second chance? Because I'm living a life that maybe some people don't think should be possible for somebody who was sentenced to 45 years in federal prison. But I am so fortunate and so blessed, not because I'm smarter than anybody else, but because I worked really hard while I was incarcerated to bring people into my life. And do you know what I considered those people that I brought into my life? I consider them kind of my partners in this entire venture. They were my shareholders, and I had to prove worthy of them. None of those shareholders know how hard I worked. My wife, whom I married inside of a federal prison, even she doesn't really know how hard I had to work in that prison to sow all of those seeds that would eventually lead her to write me a letter and us to cultivate a romance and to build a marriage inside of a federal prison. Even she, there's no way, and we've been married for 20 years now, doesn't know how hard I had to work in that environment. But I do. And that's all that's important. And what's important for me to know is that I have to convey to people who are still in prison, you've got to work hard too. You've got to become a committed member of your pathway to success, and then you've got to persuade shareholders to believe in you. That's what today's lesson is about on Prison Professors, is treating your colleagues and the people in this system as your shareholders. I learned this lesson from the best business leaders because they clearly understand what mission they are striving to achieve. They communicate that vision to the shareholders of the company. It is how they define success. Then they lay out a plan, showing shareholders what to expect. That is how they document their strategy. By regularly communicating with shareholders, business leaders invite their shareholders to hold them accountable. And that is something I really believe that every justice impacted person also needs to do. They need to figure out, how do I build a record that will bring shareholders into my life, and how do I communicate to those shareholders that I am worthy of continuing investment? Because that's what it's all about, is getting this team of people that are all working on your behalf to help you emerge with your dignity intact and with opportunities to prosper. So let me read today's lesson from our daily discussion. By reading about corporate structure, I learned a great deal about overcoming the challenges of a lengthy prison term. Rather than complaining or allowing time to define me, I could act as if I were a CEO. A CEO creates strategies to overcome problems. By living as if I were the CEO of my own life, I could prepare to solve problems that I anticipated facing in the future. As a person who would be in prison for decades, I anticipated many problems. The world would advance, but in a sense, time would stand still for me. A series of incremental action steps could help me overcome challenges, but I would have to think about all the stakeholders in my life. In a sense, they would be the equivalent of my shareholders. Shareholders could include people that I knew and people that knew me. In this category, I'd place my family and friends. I had to think about what steps I could take to prove worthy of the trust, love, and support that I felt from them. Shareholders could include people that I knew but didn't know me. I could think of the staff members who oversaw me in this category. They had a duty or a job to do. The more I understood about the purpose of their career, the more brinksmanship I could bring to my interactions with them. Shareholders could include people I didn't know and didn't know me. In this category, I could think about the people who would influence my life later: employers, potential business partners, lenders, and investors. By thinking about those people, I could put plans in place to win their favor when the time came. Shareholders could even include people that knew something about me, but that I didn't know. For example, some people around me may form perceptions that I never considered. If I genuinely executed my goals, my influence or reach would grow. After all, I intended to write for publication. That means people would read some of my ideas. Some of those people could form an opinion based on what they read. Their views could open opportunities, or they could threaten my progress. I had to think of those people as being shareholders too. If I were to act as the CEO of my life, I would have to think about all those shareholders. They had a stake in my life and could influence my prospects for success. By thinking about those people and projecting how I could prove worthy of their support, I could engineer better adjustment strategies. What steps have you taken during the past year to show you are committed to proving worthy of your shareholders? What do your shareholders expect of you? What steps can you take to bring new shareholders into your life? In what ways does the perception of your shareholders differ from the impressions of the people closest to you? How are you empowering your shareholders to open new opportunities for you? If your shareholders understood your activities over the past month, would they want to reinvest with you? How are you bringing more value to the life of your shareholders? And word of the day is brinksmanship. Define brinksmanship and use brinksmanship in a sentence. So I want you to see this concept of investing in yourself and then communicating how you are investing in yourself to the people that you want to become your shareholders. Now, in my case, I didn't learn this until I was already in prison. I was already sentenced to 45 years. But I recognize some of the people that are going through our courses are in a pre-trial stage of their proceedings. They may be locked inside of a detention center getting ready to go before they've even pleaded guilty. They may be locked in there before they have had a pre-sentence investigation report. They may not have been sentenced yet. Well, then your shareholders may be those stakeholders who have influence over your life right now. What can you do to kind of counterbalance what the prosecutors are saying about you? What can you do to show that you are a worthy candidate for a better outcome? Whatever that case may be. As somebody who did 45 years in prison, I am in no position to judge anyone that's in the system. What I am in a position to help you understand is that you have a duty and a responsibility to be the CEO of your life. And as the CEO, you've got to be accountable to your shareholders. If you work through the Prison Professors courses, you will see how seriously I took that responsibility regardless of where authorities held me. I was always thinking about how I wanted to emerge from prison and how I wanted to use those lessons to help other justice-impacted people get the best possible outcome. And that doesn't matter if you're in a state prison, county jail, or a federal prison. I want you to get the best outcome. Nobody can change the past, but all of us can begin sowing seeds for what we want to see in the days, weeks, months, and years ahead. And that's what you see me doing right now. In these daily discussions, I'm creating this content in advance that's being published later because I know later this week, I'm going to be traveling into federal prisons across the United States and going in there and giving a message. And while I'm in those prisons, I won't have access to this equipment. So I've got to do stuff in advance, get it published, and then show my shareholders, who are those people? Well, they're stakeholders of the system, that I'm trying to get them to believe on why we need more mechanisms that will allow more people to work toward earning freedom. I know you hate being in prison, but I want you to be thinking about how much you hate being in prison. If you hate it so much, you can start working today on sowing seeds that will help you emerge successfully. That's what I need you to do in order to persuade more taxpayers and legislators why we need to change the laws in a manner that favors those who invest in themselves. Those are your shareholders. They're my shareholders. I'm asking you to be a part of this community. So if you're inside of a jail or prison, make sure you're working through our courses. Make sure that you are preparing yourself to emerge with your dignity intact and with opportunities to prosper. But if you're listening to this on YouTube or on iTunes, please subscribe to our channels and visit us at prisonprofessors.com, where we strive to be the change that we want to see in the world. My name is Michael Santos, and I believe in you.